So Terrance and I get together, sit down, kind of talk through, kind of try to figure out who the characters are and what the song should be. And then once we kind of do that, then we kind of go on to our little corners, and each one of us writes a version of the song that we think might be a good idea to start with. And they're like night and day. There's like nothing similar about what we come up with. So then we get back together and we right away nix each other ideas. We're like, no good. So from that point, we basically do the same thing over and over and over. We just say, we're like, okay, this is why yours is not good. This is why yours is not good. And then once we do that, we go back, take maybe just a little bit of an idea that might have worked. It might just be a word. It might be a thought. It might be a character. And say, okay, let's take that and then let's write another song. And we do that over and over and over. Until we get to a point where we kind of have a good starting point, where kind of all the issues have been addressed, there's some ideas there, there's some musical things, there's some lyrical thing, and then we just sit down and start coming up with the first draft of that song, which is already about like 20 or 30 drafts in. Once we have that, then we just sit there and we duke it out, like line by line, until we come up with an idea that we feel kind of works, gets the character going, and is basically the final product. So right now we're going to guide you through a couple of versions of songs that we did, and then show you the final song.
Yeah, so just to expound on it a little bit. So yeah, we're going to play for you basically two 30-second or so ideas that were scrapped, and show you how those ideas that were scrapped led to the final song, which we'll play. And this song actually requires a little bit of a setup, so bear with. Because when you do see the final product, of course, it's going to be in the film, with different actors playing these roles, and costumes, and different instrumentation, and the whole thing. So you get to see it grow even beyond what we're going to play for you. Episode 2 takes place largely in heaven, and the song we're going to sing, or the development of the song we're going to sing, is done by two characters called the translators. And the translators are basically heaven's security guards. They're sort of like a Tweedledee, Tweedledum type character. And imagine 1930s coppers. They've got fucking nightsticks, Sam Brown belts, like the pointy hats. And they speak in a weird dialect, because in heaven, all of the orders are a little bit muddled and confusing. But you're expected to know what the message is. And if you don't get it right, they come in to basically punish you or interrogate you or what have you. So the scene, what was required was basically these two translators are interrogating or busting two characters in heaven that have kind of done something a little against heaven's policy. So here's one of the first ideas we had.
This is our bumbling version of the song. Good little pets tend to know their place, but she's not a good little pet.
This one she bounces and trounces and flounces, and that one, she's worse than him yet.
I guess it's a good time for flogging, or else we've got paperwork logging.
Good little pets tend to know their place, and these are a terrible set.
That was one of the earlier versions, which we nixed right away.
We nixed it right away. We said, okay, way too chipper, right? We know it's heaven, but we need to add some teeth.
We had to get out of our system.
Except for now we've done it for you, and it's going to be on YouTube.
Yeah.
We're like, okay, we need to add some teeth. So we said, okay, let's bring in a little bit of like Children of the Third Reich. And we took from this idea of good little pets, right, which is basically this concept that heaven is referring to its denizens as animals. Animals that need to be trained and broken and domesticated. So we're like, okay, what if they refer to them as domesticates? And this is what came from it. I need my cheat sheet. Clear and cut,
Open and shut,
cases,
close,
and
ashes,
dust.
Sorry, we're gonna start that over again.
Thank you, sir.
This is another version we nixed.
Route 2. Clear and cut,
Open and shut,
cases,
close,
and
ashes,
dust. Voila,
red hands,
red face,
red tail.
lines of
We're
eyes,
stepping in time,
no
such
thing
as
victims.
crime.
Voila,
Black sheep,
black eyes,
black eyes, feed 'em with a spoon, promise on the moon. That's how you make a domesticate. Grab 'em by the nape, right into the chafe. That's how you make a domesticate. Voila.
So again, we crumpled that up and threw it away.
This is a bonus track, it's awesome. awesome.
Thank you. And so 15 drafts later, in doing research, and I mentioned 1930s coppers, Heaven is basically modeled after 1930s golden age of Hollywood. So in researching the era, I stumbled upon a device that basically at the time was considered the pinnacle of technological innovation. There's a thing called a dictaphone. Basically was an old dictation machine. And it was about the size of a mini fridge. And it had a giant sort of like phonograph horn on it. And basically you would speak into this vacuum-like tube, record what you wanted to say, and the recording would be etched like a record into a wax cylinder. And the idea was that companies could now hire cheap labor to transcribe things. Prior to that, you needed a very expensive stenographer to be in the room with you, listening as you spoke, and they needed to type at like rapid pace. Now, you could hire anyone because they could take back this wax cylinder, put on a pair of these giant 1930s metal headphones, listen back to the recording, and if they don't get a word, they can stop it, they can rewind it, they can slow it down, they can play it again until they get the proper transcription. And when that process was finished and the dictation was transcribed, there was a device called a shaving engine that would basically scrape off the top layer of the wax so that you could record something new on the cylinder. And you could do this a certain number of times. So, in stumbling upon this, I'm like, okay, that's it. It's Heaven, right? They hail themselves as being innovative and at the cutting edge and better than hell, at least, right? Patting themselves on the back. So we're like, okay, there's these translators. They're basically interrogation artists. What if they're using this device, this so-called pinnacle of technological innovation, to find new and innovative ways of making their subjects talk?
This is our infomercial for Heaven.
Good little dictation machines.
Once there was a time you needed transcripts in triplicates and duplicates to log.
By letter, bone, and tar, and as the time slipped, stenographers and upstrikers and slogs. Yes, it was a sorry time for chalking. Every foot and header to be drawn.
But now we have machines to write the talking.
The days of breaking hands with words are gone. See how we dictate of you, translate for you, cutting conversation, every tongue in harmonation, and transmit to you, make writ of you, spinning mandrels, innovating ways to make you talk. Lift the tube and mouthpiece from the gurney, aim the dictator against your pout.
Depress the metal treadle
With your derbies,
how the waxy barrel spins about.
use your jaws to start the duplication. A needle traces every errant tone. And listen back to your domestication. And the sentence through the phones. See how we dictate of you, translate for you, cutting conversation, every tongue in harmonation, and transmit to you, make writ of you, spinning mandrels, innovating ways to make you talk. Dictate of you, translate for you, cutting conversation, every tongue in harmonation, and transmit to you, make writ of you, spinning mandrels, innovating ways to make you.
Finally the shaving engine cycles,
Whittling the wax down to the skin, so the cylinder can be recycled.
to try a testimony once again.
Hold your words and measure your intentions. Rid yourself of every hiss and horse. Fidelity is the gristle of invention, capturing our voices for the chorus. See how we dictate of you, translate for you, cutting conversation, every tongue in harmonation, and transmit to you, make writ of you, spinning mandrels, 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 innovating ways to make you talk.